So you talk sometimes about when things are good, you just want to milk it, right? Like ride that out. Like the momentum is just coast on the awesomeness of.
It's a good way to practice that vibration of allowing.
So I feel like in the last 4 or 5 years, I literally do not understand what it is like to not get what I want. And I don't want to go back. I don't ever want to go back.
You can't because you know too much.
Okay.
You can't go back because you know too much.
Okay.
And because your guidance is active and alive within you, and because you're aware now of what emotions mean. And you're aware that if something's bothering you, then take your attention from it if you can. And if you can't, then meditate or take a nap or do something to stop the momentum of it. And then the things that feel good, focus upon them more. That's why the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets. We've been down this road with all of you before, where we explained to you that you are the creator of your own reality. And at first you really liked that until you realized, I'm the creator of my own reality. And then you started worrying about what your thoughts and words might be, to suck them back before law of attraction got hold of them and gave you something that you did not want. But over time, more and more of you are relaxed in understanding that you do create your own reality. And then we began talking to you about deliberate creation. But the thing about deliberate creation is that you keep thinking that you're going to think your way through something. So when you have a problem, you try to think your way through the problem, which just enhances the problem, often just enhances the problem. And so then we began explaining that it's step 1, 2, 3. Ask and source gives, and then you've got to find some way of getting into the receptive mode. Now, many of you, over time, you've heard or learned or maybe even spoken phrases like, let go and let God. That's something that a lot of people say. Or, I give up. The thing that we want you to understand is that you never give up your desire. It's in the vortex. And source energy is all over it, helping the becoming of it. But when you find more and more ways where you give up a little more resistance, then things just get better and better and better for you. But you're not ever going to want to be out of the step 1 phase, because that's where the new expansion comes from. Really, if you don't sort of know what you don't want, you're not going to sort of know what you do want. And if there's not a steady new realization for you about the new improvement, then all of our becoming would cease to be, and that will never be. So you're always going to have some step 1 moments. But when you get it into context and you stop comparing yourself to others and worrying about the way they see you, and instead are letting your dominant intention be about how you feel and the satisfaction that you're feeling moment by moment, then you reach this place where what we started calling a step 4, where you're in the receiving mode often, and you're able to maintain the receiving mode because now you know, first of all, what it feels like. You know when you're in the receiving mode and when you're not. So when it's easy, as you say, you guide your thoughts there. And then step 5 maybe is our favorite step of all, because that's when you come to the realization that step 1 is inevitable and that you're going to go there from time to time, and you're now no longer mad at yourself for having a step 1 moment, because you know step 1 is important too. But you're no longer blaming yourself about being in step 1. You're saying, oh good, something to want. In other words, maybe you've just broken up a whole lot of stuff, and maybe you've just made a big mess of something. Oh, good. There's a part of you that knows, oh, good. This is going to be really good, because this means that there's something I really want that I'm really crossways of, and this experience is helping me to discover it. And if the discovery of something that you don't want feels strong, then you know the solution of it is going to feel way, way satisfying. It's why we think a lot of you really like the drama. You hold yourself apart from what you want, you hold yourself apart from what you want, and you hold yourself apart from what you want, and then you stumble into some way of allowing it, and then you go, oh wow, way exciting. And there's a little bit of that in what you said to us. I know I've got resistance going on, but good things are happening to me in spite of the resistance that I've got going on. And we say, welcome to planet Earth and welcome to life exactly as you intended it to be. But you did intend to have more control of your life than you are exercising, all of you. But not control in the sense of controlling factors, controlling outcomes and controlling circumstances. You intended to control your focus and control your vibration and control your proximity to your vortex and control your mood, control your attitude, which means control the direction of your thoughts. Not control what the world is doing, not control what your partner is doing or your girlfriend is doing or your boyfriend is doing or your kids are doing or your parents are doing or your employees are doing or your employers are doing, your government is doing, not Delta Airlines is doing, not controlling what anybody else is doing so that you can have a good feeling response to what you've controlled, because you can't. You've got to give up the uncontrollable, and all of that stuff's uncontrollable, and exercise control of your own focus, which means just acknowledge that you want to feel good, and there are plenty of thoughts that you can think that do feel good, and just lean more in the direction of what feels good. And so that's what we're saying to you. You've always been leaning more in this story that you've been expressing to us, always been leaning more in the direction of what feels good, and that's why it keeps working out for you. But there is more hands in the clay satisfaction for all of you. It's one thing to have filled your vortex full of enough to keep you happily busy for 20 or 30 lifetimes. You've done that. It's one thing to have a vortex that's ripe and flowing to you, and to just stumble along into something that feels good and get a little of it, and then say, oh, how lucky am I? Or, oh, what a nice piece of karma I just discovered. What a nice happenstance where chance shined its lucky charms all over me. Or, oh, an angel has shined down on me and giving me a little blessing. That's one way a lot of people sort of live life that way. And it's another way to know that this experience caused you to focus a desire into being, and that your inner being is all over it and tending it and focusing information back to you for a very pleasing, satisfied unfolding. And you deliberately hold yourself in a vibrational stance where you're in the receptive mode so that you're receiving the thought and the impulses. Oh, hands in the clay. Deliberate creating is so delicious.
My name is Clay. Just trying to process this just one step further, a lot of great things started happening to me like around the time that my grandfather died. And my grandfather used to carry around $100 bills. And when I was like 5, 6, 7, he used to just give them to me. And then when he died, it's like he opened up this channel where I could like ask for things. And when he died, I would ask him for money, like large sums of money. Like way more than I could even comprehend. And he would give me like 2 or 3 or 4 more. Is he doing that? Or am I like, in other words, is he just inserting his will into my experience despite myself?
He is not creating in your reality, nor is he the vortex through which all of your well-being comes. But your attention to him and the prosperity that he demonstrated puts you in a vibrational place where you allow in a stronger way when you focus upon him than you usually do. Isn't that nice to know? And he never stops focusing upon you. But he cannot impose his desire upon you. He just blends with your desire, knows so clearly who you are, never stops focusing it and knowing it, and sometimes you're more likely to let it in than others, you see.
So is that real? Is it really him? He's really focused on me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
One of the nicest things is when someone that has your attention makes their transition into non-physical, because your attention upon them is strong. And now they're in a different vantage point where there's no resistance there and focused upon you. And sometimes you hear it and sometimes you don't. When you sat down, you said, I'm not psychic, but you are. You said, but I'm not psychic, but I could feel Jerry. Well, you did. You did. And so sometimes you get more emphatic glimpses of that than others. But always, 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 your dearly departed that are not so departed, who are still interested about you, are flooding their knowledge. Where you are and what you're interested in, they are often very interested in too, because there is this eternalness about life experience. And so there is not a separation between the physical and the non-physical that some people think that there is. But even though they are interested and they still want you to create your own reality, not one of them is ever saying, I need you to go do this, and you should go do this, and go do this, and you need to do this. There's an interpretation that sometimes feels like that, but they are knowing about your ability to create your own reality. And so they're rooting for you, and they might be looking forward to the thing that's the next logical step for you to discover and for you to allow. While it may seem to you, and it may even have been satisfying to hold out your hand and have this lovely man put $100 in your hand. Esther does it with all the little kids she knows too. And it kind of makes them stand around like this a lot. But it's receptive mode to something different than the receptive mode she wants them to be receptive to. Because you could receive $100 bills like that, but the true satisfaction comes when through life you have done your asking and now you're in the receptive mode and the entire universe is yielding to you in ways that you just cannot even imagine. And that is what your grandfather wants you to know. He is not the vortex through which your well-being flows, but he's an example of well-being flowing through a vortex, but it is endless. And you know that. He wouldn't want you to think that every thought you think is his thought. Because it isn't. He wants you to know that when you find the receptive mode on any subject, there is so much help there for you. Not because you need it, but because we are all in this together. We are all in this together.
That's awesome. The last thing I have is I know there's 5 steps. I can never remember the 5 steps. But to me, it just feels like I'm this little kid and I'm just stirring up this pot of awesome shit. And that's
no, you're actually a witch. No.
Oh, okay. No, it's like I just get excited about something and then it just happens. And so step 1 is just I just get really excited about something and then it shows up, and that's really fun.
Well, it doesn't matter what the 5 steps are, does it?
Oh, I can't remember them.
Step 1, life causes you to ask. Step 2, source answers. Step 3 is you hear what source is saying. You heard Jerry say hi. You hear what non-physical is saying. Step 4 is you get really good at that. That's a silly step, isn't it? It's just being really good at step 3. That's what step 4 is. Mastering it. And then step 5 is being back in step 1 because you know it's the natural thing of physical life, and not being mad at yourself for being back in step 1, but appreciating the contrast that you know is putting more into the vortex. It's such a nice thing. If you weren't already good at that, then your opening words to us could not have been true, and they were. You said, often I'm in a not so good place and the blessings are still raining down around me. And that's why. Because well-being is dominant. And once you know that, then you don't freak out when you're in a moment where things aren't going the way you want them. But as humans, you've been hanging around with so many others that have wanted you to evaluate what's manifesting and only what's manifesting. And not only that, they want to segregate you into manifested piles. Oh, we'll put you in this good pile and we'll put you in this bad pile. They want to pigeonhole and decide, and then you learn to do that too. Oh, I'm unworthy because of this, or I'm unworthy because of this. And meanwhile, you're separating yourself, that's too strong of a word, from this source energy that is always knowing your value, you see. But sometimes when you're only measuring what is, and you've been praying for something for a long time and it hasn't come, then your conclusion is, I must not be worthy, because you assign to someone else the offering of the goodness, instead of realizing that the goodness is being offered to everyone and that you got to find some way of getting in a receptive mode before you hear it. You see, you will never hear us say, or anyone who is non-physically focused say, that We are the creator of your own reality, and you are a puppet on a string. And you need to listen. That's not what it is all about. Life causes you to ask, but then you got to get in the place where you can receive, yes? And you've been doing a really good job of that, and now you understand it more better, yes?
I do.